Item, consent calendar, item 9. What's the pleasure of the board? We have several speakers. Would you like to hear the speakers first?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, Paul Marsh.
Just like to make a special note that welcoming Mr. Marsh here. He is a former Pima County Supervisor, so we always try and give deference and mention the fact that you're a former supervisor when you come in our room.
Appreciate that. Does this thing work? I guess it works.
This is awesome.
I'll bring it over where I can see it closer. The item that I was interested in today is in regards to the fact that we're putting in new equipment for voting. And I think that's a good idea because many of the voting items that we work with daily and annually are antiquated. And it's time for some new equipment. And I think that's an important consideration because what's more consistent with the Constitution of the United States than voting? Yes, Mr. Cowell? Oh, okay. Okay. I'll get closer to it. And of course, in our Constitution, we have a basic check and balance arrangement between the various parts of government, the judicial area, the legislative, and the executive. And of course, you folks are handling a lot of that in the county, and it's important that our voters be aware of what you do. And the point I'm making here is, when we look at that new system, we've streamlined it to the point where some of the scanners that we ordinarily should have to keep an honest, credible, accurate vote there be looked at more thoroughly. And I think in this particular instance, the American citizen of Pima County would like that. For the simple reason that we are a republic and you folks are our representatives. We would like to have the proper voting to be able to choose those representatives as we go ahead. So I was, at this point in time, looking at that, I know you're to be voting on it today as to whether you accept that challenge or not by way of new equipment. That you take a look at it and maybe postpone the vote this week so we can take another long look at it to be sure we have the safeguards that are going to give us the accuracy and the honesty that the American people in Pima County need. So that would be my recommendation to you, to make that change and review it more fully for that reason. The board, I thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Marsh. Christopher, I have no last name. Let me, for the record, I want, as I call people up, please ensure that your testimony is pertinent, non-repetitive, and we will handle the matter fairly and expeditiously if you do so, and please abide by the rules of civility. And with that, all I have here is it's Christopher. I have no last name.
Did I forget to put my last name on there?
Was it you? I wondered if it was Mr. Cole. Okay, Christopher Cole.
Okay.
Thank you. And again, speakers are limited to 3 minutes for those of you who are new to this process.
I apologize for the mistake. I am still Christopher Cole, and I still reside in Tucson. Did you expect anything different? I will point out an unfortunate event of the last election wherein a county had to get their ballots counted elsewhere because their central count system failed while they were counting early ballots and provisional ballots. Somewhere around 3/4 of the ballots cast in Pima County are early ballots counted by the central count system. Add in provisional ballots and the percentage is even higher. If Pima County buys only a central count system, then there's no backup when it fails. That central count system will fail. Every time you use equipment, mechanical or electronic, there's an increasing chance it will fail. And if you store electronic equipment and don't use it for a long time, you increase the chances that it will fail when you do use it. My training and experience as an electronics technician is the basis for that little bit of knowledge. I make no claims that precinct scanners can be used as a backup when the central count system fails, but it is at least a possibility and one that needs to be explored. one that you are eliminating if you purchase only a central count system. Not too long ago, the county spent a lot of money aiding the growth of soccer in Pima County. I have yet to find a legal basis that gives you authority to have spent money in that way. That money would have been better spent by increasing scanners as a possible backup for the central count system. Plus, in buying those scanners, you are not eliminating a level of security in the voter count. $1.8 billion is not too extreme a price to pay for those two effects. At least there is legal authority for spending taxpayer money on increasing scanners as opposed to soccer. Thank you.
Thank you. Jerry Albani. And then there are several more you can line up after Ms. Albani, Bill Beard, and then Mike East.
Madam Chairman and Board of Supervisors, my name is Jerry Ottoboni and I live in Oro Valley. We just went through a primary election and they're still counting the ballots. Apparently some machines had problems, so validation of precincts should be included. I happened to have watched a video of Mr. Mickey Donahue about election integrity as he was on the commission. I found it very enlightening. Mr. Huckleberry stated that we did not have enough money for the validation procedure, which provides a check and balance for our elections. Interestingly enough, I happened to see something on my computer where an individual stated that why was Mr. Huckleberry in such a hurry to purchase the property below the baseball for the soccer fields right before the election? Was that so that we could state that we don't have enough money to purchase a validation procedure? They said it was for the children, but election integrity is important for the children, and additional money that they want to spend on the soccer fields with hotels and restaurants will put a strain on the taxpayers who are the parents of the children, causing less for the children. So you want to upgrade the soccer fields and downgrade election integrity. The taxpayer, the parents of the children deserve better. A side note, there appears to be a possibility of soccer fields being developed in this area near hotels, restaurants, and transportation, which would be much better for the children and the parents who are the taxpayers. Thank you.
Yes, my name is Bill Beard. I actually brought a visual aid with me today back to my teaching days. It's a high school textbook called History of a Free People. Lessons. Learned at a young age or old, lessons are taught, but sometimes in ways that are not quite intended. The right to vote, free speech, free assembly, freedom of religion, all rest on the same grounds as the principles of separation of powers and checks and balances. Two things not even found in the text of the document, but are building blocks of the same. Students all across Pima County learn about these ideas each year. Today, your lesson would seem to run in the opposite direction of what those students learn. Actually, it is a lesson anyone visiting the monuments and reading the names just outside this building would understand as well. I'll quote from this textbook. Quote, on the other hand, checks and balances and separation of powers are an insurance against seizure of power of the government by a single man or an organized group. They are also protection against rash, ill-considered action. These advantages probably more than outweigh the apparent inefficiency of such a system. A wise lesson that students understand, but your lesson would contradict that one. Yours is about convenience for bureaucrats and saving money, not about constitutional principles. When bureaucrats talk about saving money, it is not about saving money. Mr. Huckleberry has asked that you purchase a new election system. Long overdue, but we need one. A system that will only include a central count machine. A system that concentrates power in one place with fewer eyeballs watching. If anyone sat down to design a new election system, they would install multiple checks to verify in a transparent way the final vote tallies. Arizona election laws were designed to keep these principles in mind. All power dealing with elections is divided. Our election laws are designed to have multiple sets of eyeballs watching the tally each and every step of the way. Where Mr. Huckleberry is mistaken is that his new
Please
system...
turn off your cell phones.
Where Mr. Huckleberry is mistaken is that his new system is only part of a system. Precinct scanners do have their uses. By dividing the number counting at multiple locations, it makes cheating more difficult. I believe bookkeepers are familiar with the term double entry bookkeeping. It allows even the sloppiest the ability to verify their entries at the end of the day. If both columns don't add up, you go back and you figure out why. Something that when you're determining who will have access to spending billions of taxpayer dollars is a good thing. But we're here today to discuss lessons. If we follow the logic of your vote today, you ensure that fewer eyeballs watch, there will be fewer ways to independently verify the numbers, and fewer opportunities to maintain transparency of the process. Which lesson do you want the public and those students to understand? Convenience for the bureaucrats in saving dollars, or follow the principles that breathe life into our Constitution? Precinct scanners need to be put back in the process. 1.8 million spread over 12-year lifespan of the system is a very small price to pay.
Thank you. Your
History
time
and the
is up.
people are watching.
Mike Evans, and then Nancy Newman, and then I invite Gabby to sit on your chair.
I didn't bring notes because everything was covered, almost everything. As a precinct committeeman, I want to know that the votes count. Election integrity is everything, and I don't want a piece of equipment missed in our election cycle and hear about election integrity after this next election. 25% of people show up to vote on this midterm election. And my job is going to be able to get a few more votes knocking on doors. I want this part fixed for good. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Newman.
I am Nancy Newman. I'm a poll worker. I'm against the County Board of Supervisors' desire to cut the scanners from the new voting machines. Voting machines should be of the most advanced technology with all safeguards to ensure the integrity of the vote. Integrity of the vote, meaning every vote is counted as voted, is a foundation freedom of all countries wanting to become a democracy. Using the excuse to save money by leaving out the precinct scanning ability of the voting machines is, in my opinion, on the verge of treasonous. I am against cheaping the new voting machines to save money when these machines will be used for at least the next 18 years. $1.8 million expected to be saved in the purchase of the new machines by the County Board of Supervisors is very little money in the whole realm of things. Any effort to lessen the integrity of the vote leads only down the road to a failed country. Please buy scanners and any other safeguard options to ensure our votes are counted. Thank you.
Ms. Mercer.
Good morning, Madam Chairman. My name is Gabby Salcedo Mercer. I'm just going to talk about the elections. Elections, in order to retain their integrity in the minds of the citizens, need to be held at high levels of scrutiny and transparency. Counting behind closed doors without verifiable paper ballots and cross-checked by community members chosen at random is highly suspect and undermines citizen confidence. Bureaucrats need to be reminded of this repeatedly to be held accountable. Elections are not an inconvenience. They are necessary for the ideals of freedom and the rule of law. Election officials are not above the law. In days gone by, voting tallies were made at the precinct before the machines ever left the polling place, and the process was open to viewing by members of the public. Imagine that.
Madam Chair,
Supervisor Carroll.
Madam Chair, if there's no other speakers, I ask that this
Yes, there are.
I didn't see your name up there.
I put in two different cards, one on this subject.
Well, I If Mr. Heinigen would like to approach, I guess I could ask my question first. If I might, would the board let him speak on his way up? Okay, we'll wait.
Your card says 33. Agenda item 33.
Right, there are two different cards in your possession.
We don't have, okay.
Okay. Welcome to my redress of grievances versus a corrupt government. I will speak as I please.
Again, I remind you, abide by the rules of civility, and I mean it, sir.
You and I operate by different rules, obviously. I am a United States veteran. I belong to a family of nothing but veterans. I buried my father in Arlington this year. I buried a grandfather and two uncles in Arlington. None of them fought, bled, and died to watch a junta destroy the fabric of our voting system. You already have a 4-to-1 voting bias. You have Mr. Huckleberry to take the slings and arrows because he's just doing what you suggest, I assume, or we don't need you. The fact that this area has voted over 80% Democrat for 70 years should let you know you don't have anything to worry about. You just keep doing what you're doing because, see, we have this thing called the corrupt and complicit media. They do us no service. They're complicit in all your activities. The lesson I took away from Bill Beard today is that our local elections look more and more like organized crime, like South America. We talk about faith and trust, equal protection under the law. There's none here. You despise us, we know that. You raise our taxes on a regular basis. The shirt I wear stands for taxed enough already. In 8 years, our country's undergone an inversion. GDP to government spending ratios. I am, ma'am. This is about government, and you will not determine what I talk about.
This is about
This
elections.
is, and you're wasting
Sir,
my time.
You are to stick to the item on the agenda.
Ma'am, do not violate my First Amendment rights to free speech ever again.
You may be removed from the school if you continue to-
Well, we can see on court on that one. But when you have a complicit media and one political party effectively running a county, this is what you get. You get people who think they have more power than they are given. You do not have the will of the consent of the people. Maybe you do for the people who voted for you, but not the other 60%. Have a nice day.
Adriana, and I cannot read your last name. I'm sorry, I couldn't make out your last name.
Adriana McCracken.
Okay.
So I'm going to kind of keep it short and just cut to the chase. We all know, us informed voters know exactly what you are doing. I stand here as a citizen of this country who has been a part of the military family, who has supported, defended the rights that they have given us, that they have fought for. And what you are doing here is wrong. And just because you can do it doesn't mean that it's right. So when I wake up every day, when that flag goes up, that's my flag. When it goes over the soldiers that have fought for the rights that we get with that comes with that flag, I make sure I'm living a life that's worth it. I wish you guys would do the same next time you look at that flag. Thank you.
That concludes our speakers. Supervisor Farrell, you have the floor.
This really has nothing to do with any speakers' comments. I'm glad that they had a chance to speak about the award of the contract, which is item 9 on the consent calendar. But the question I have is for either Mr. Nelson or someone in his department. The new system being purchased here, the systems and software that are being purchased here, they are compatible with precinct voting machines. Am I right or wrong?
Madam Chair, Supervisor Carroll, they are compatible with precinct scanners.
So when anyone says that audits can't be done, what are they referencing? You can do audits at precincts with this equipment. In fact, didn't we do some in our last primary election?
In our most recent election, we had approximately 25 precincts that did not have scanners at their particular polling places. 2 of those precincts were selected by the political parties, not by our office, but by the political parties under their observation, and those ballots that were scanned at the precincts without scanners came out 100% accurate on randomly selected contests in this particular election.
Will we be attempting to run a check and balance on the equipment in precinct committee or in precinct voting polling places after the general election, Mr. Nelson, as well, after each election?
Madam Chair, Supervisor
Yeah,
Carroll,
and let me amplify on that. What checks and balances? We do run checks and balances. Please enlighten us as to what those are, because the speakers seem to indicate we did not.
certainly, everything that we do within the elections department, and I presume under the recorder's department as well, since that is also part of the elections and voter registration process, is completely open to public viewing. Not particularly any sort of problems have existed, but if they are, we want to hear that information. But what we do is put out public notices to come to our logic and accuracy test. Those logic and accuracy tests are performed by my office, by the political parties, and by the Secretary of State's office as well. Members of the media, the press, U.S. citizens, non-citizens, registered voters, not registered voters, and candidates are invited to come to those particular functions so they can see exactly how this equipment is tested prior to Election Day. Not post-Election Day, let's talk about Election Day. On Election Day, at all of the polling places, there are individuals from opposing political parties serving as poll workers, and political parties also have the opportunity to provide election challengers and election observers at each and every polling place on Election Day. When the results from those particular precincts come back on election night, they are first cataloged by those opposing political party members who make up the poll workers, documented. A chain of custody is then from those respective polling places into election command and documented the entire way through so that no one person has all of the ballots or all of the voter registration forms or things of that nature. Thereafter, the ballots are counted under political party observation and at the invitation of our office to anyone to come down and watch the process. After the elections are totaled, we then conduct a random hand count audit of all precincts. In this particular situation, 5 completely random selections of early ballots were chosen for random audit, as well as 5 precincts and 4 contested races. We came out 100% on the nose from what the precinct results were, as was reported to the public. Also, the information pertaining to going scannerless has been presented to the Secretary of State's office for their approval, and they have approved it as well. Hopefully that helps.
It does help, and I hope people can listen, play the tape back if they need to. The explanation that you gave, this new equipment falls under the approval of what current state law is.
That's correct. In fact, it was used in Pinal County in the most recent election.
Okay, now we have a brand new, a Secretary of State. It's no longer Ken Bennett. In fact, I was on the winning team in a primary earlier this month, or last month, that has a potential Secretary of State in the wings. Michelle Reagan, when she was a state rep, or when she was in the legislature, did she have any influence on supporting the state law that does dictate that these types of systems are compatible with the home office of your elections department?
I don't believe as a member of the legislature she chimed in on that particular situation. It's the Secretary of State's office that has to review elections equipment and approve it. The Secretary of State does not approve that by him or herself. They have a 3-member committee, one a member of the bar, another a member of the Secretary of State's office, and one from the College of Engineering from one of our major universities. Those are the individuals that certify equipment.
I hate to say this, but I have not engaged in much debate about just the number 9 item on today's agenda with anyone outside just people on the committee. I do want to say that I'm lacking a committee member on elections integrity. I'm going to announce today I'm looking for a member that has to be a Republican that lives in District 4 to try to circle out the need. And I don't think
Does it
Mr.
have to
Van
be a
Heinigen,
And that's not part of the rules or
in my
anything, I'm just
opinion,
saying
it's
that.
going to be a Republican.
I'm just saying, I'm just trying to.
I had appointed a Republican, I thought last time, who left the party, but
I was just trying to be helpful.
look, there's a lot of that going on these days. Both parties, they're losing people and they're moving into the independent category for a reason. And so with no further ado, I just want to ask again, it's a completely compatible precinct voting system that we're, for the 888,000 or 886,000 and some odd change that we spend a day. Is there any reason to delay this vote until it can be vetted by your Elections Integrity Committee?
Madam.
Or should it be waited out until the new Secretary of State is in office? Tell us your impression of that.
Madam Chairman, Supervisor Carroll, there were 2 members of the Election Integrity Committee on the Procurement Committee as the process was being reviewed.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, and I appreciate your honest, straightforward answer. I'm sure anybody would, according to the rules of this board, be welcome to rebut that, but I'm talking about the truth and the compatibility and the technology. I'm not an expert. This is a great big problem, and I believe that it's up to the chair now if there's going to be any rebut, but I can tell you right now, it doesn't seem amiss to me.
Please say this is not a hearing.
No more. No more.
There is there a motion on the floor to approve this?
What did you say? Madam Chair,
Supervisor Valdez.
I move that we approve item 9 on the consent calendar.
Motion and a second to approve item 9. Any discussion?
Madam Chair, because the new system's completely compatible with voting machines and that's been verified, I'm voting yes. Thank you.
There's a motion on the floor. Are there any objections? Hearing none, motion carries unanimously 4-0.